I remember that one day I just couldn't feel my body. I mean, I realized that I'm so tired that I need to do something, but then I had no energy to do anything. So I think that's the trick when you're in that state, because even if you realize you have to do something, sometimes we need help to get out of there. And I was alone in London. I had very few friends, mostly colleagues. And for me, there was a tiny habit that helped me. I saw a research about gratitude, which was actually framed in a much more simplistic way. What makes you happy? 100 happy days. And I turned that into a habit. They were saying that if you do that for 100 days, there are some benefits. You feel better, you have more clarity, and it takes a minute per day. And I was like, okay, I can do 1 minute. I remember it was something that opened the door to a whole new universe for me, with just this tiny habit of starting to practice mindfulness every day.
Welcome to the Bright Living Podcast, a podcast where we explore tools and techniques to build a more luminous life. My name is Emma, I am a guide for yoga, meditation, and founder of Bright Living, and I will be your host today. For a conversation around gratitude today, I have invited Veronica Brejan, one of my dearest mentors, who embodies generosity, gratitude, abundance, living her life's purpose. With a history of corporate burnout and career change, she now helps people come closer to their potential as leaders. Veronica Brejan is an executive coach and managing partner at NeuroMindfulness Institute, a company who offers transformational leadership programs, executive coaching services, and executive retreats. She is also an accredited practitioner NLP and timeline therapy with the American Board of NLP. Veronica is a graduate of the International EMBA program from Maastricht School of Management. Before co-founding NeuroMindfulness Institute, Veronica held top HR positions in London, Paris, and Eastern Europe. She has 15 years of experience in HR and 10 years of experience as an executive coach, internal and external. Together with her business partner, specialized in neuroscience and research, Veronica has led executive development programs in the UK, France, Spain, Nordic countries, Eastern Europe. Her personal mantra is, "It is only in the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible for the eye." Her life purpose is to bring together modern science, ancient wisdom, and business acumen to inspire leaders to raise their level of consciousness and make a positive change and difference in the world. Gratitude is at the core of her being and of everything she's doing. Let's see why. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bright Living Podcast, where today we have a guest who is so very, very special to my heart. Welcome, Veronica. I'm so happy to have you here. And I'd like to start with a question that I really love to ask all the guests. You have many roles in your life. You have a very important mission to accomplish. But who are you? Who is Veronica behind all those roles?
Thank you so much, Emma, for inviting and for starting with straight into the topic, right? Yeah, I think I'm discovering every day who I am. And as you said, these days I am a mom, I'm a partner, I'm a friend, I'm a daughter. So lots of roles that are playing in my life. But in the same time, I train my brain and my heart to remember that I'm just a soul on a journey, and learning is part of my path. So I think when I'm good, when I'm at peace, I come back to this idea and this belief that I'm a soul on a journey, and everybody I meet, everything I do is part of a flow, and try to stay in that flow, which is a big challenge, especially at the end of the year with all the closing all the projects and the kid at school, lots of activities, and so year end can be a time of busyness for many of us.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you, how is life looking for you these days?
Life is good today. So again, I learned to appreciate these days and to say it more when there are good days like this.
Mm.
I went into the busyness of the year end until 2 days ago when I attended a workshop and there was a beautiful meditation. We were together, actually, participants, and that brought me home. So that meditation brought me home, and remembering, well, life is simple if we make it simple, even in the busy time. So
Mm.
today life is good. Yesterday I co-worked with my partner and also with our kid because he was at home. And we managed to make the busiest week of the year a fun time and a time when we achieved everything, but also we had a little bit of fun and enjoyed the family time.
Thank you for the pictures, by the way. And I feel like that is such an amazing skill to have during this time, to keep your grace, to keep your peace and quiet. And yeah, how do you do it, Vero? How do you manage that?
Well, I don't manage. I mean, I'm just like everybody else. There are times when life is hard.
Mm.
We lose control and nothing works, not even mindfulness or gratitude or whatever we talk here.
Mm.
So I'd like to first, maybe before we talk about this beautiful topic of gratitude and mindfulness, maybe we acknowledge that sometimes we're in pain. Sometimes life is really, really difficult because of things we've done, decisions we've done, or simply because maybe we are in a position where we lose family members,
Mm.
or there is such a context where we feel trapped. So whatever we say here is beautiful, but sometimes I want to also acknowledge that there are moments when it's really, really difficult, and we want to honor those stories and those people who maybe are listening to us, and send them a big hug.
For sure, for sure. And especially at the end of the year, I feel like it's a time when the things that are maybe unresolved or are not perfect in our lives, those things tend to come up again. They tend to show up, and maybe the reflection time that we have makes us look at them and maybe process them.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of pressure. I mean, Christmas, Thanksgiving in some parts of the world, but Christmas, if we talk about most of the planet, celebrating in one way or another, something around the year end is Christmas or other celebrations. And there's a lot of pressure. We come back to the family, we meet the parents, which means sometimes triggers
Yeah.
or other family members. And it's a good opportunity for growth, but sometimes we're just tired, and those triggers press the buttons that we don't want to press. So that's why it's a very powerful time of the year
Mm.
if we think of learning, but it's not an easy time of the year if we think of all the other elements that involve these celebrations.
Mm. I think there was a saying, it said, if you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, it's usually true.
Why do you think family is so triggering to most of us? Um,
Well, I can tell you why family is triggering for me, because that's
mhm.
where there's a lot at stake. So that's where the biggest love is, and that's where the biggest connection is. So for me, that's an element where, because I care so much, I am attached much more than,
Mm.
much easier to detach from a business project, from a business idea, than to detach from your own kid or from your partner. And I think also meeting parents, if we go to that side of the family, is a triggering moment, because simply we have built those buttons in so many years, and we go back to maybe implicit memories or childhood memories that we remember or we don't remember, and we press those buttons, and then the
Mm.
whole chain of emotions is unleashed. So that's why I think probably this time is particularly sensitive.
Mm. I'm listening to you speak, and I can totally sense the wisdom, and I know the empathy that is there, and the loving human being. And I'm just wondering, and if you could share with us, were you always like this? Was it always like this for you?
Yeah, I'm always there, never had any challenge in my whole life. And
I'm,
then
I'm,
we
I'm
can
sure of that.
Yeah, if I would have to go back to the most painful, like some of them is really, really painful moments of my life, but there were also moments of growth, although I didn't perceive them as such when they happened. There were three. So my touch points were 30, 34, and 40. So I was quite lucky to have a really simple life until 30, I would say. And at 30, I faced real life because I divorced after being married for 2 months. So it was like just took a very bad decision that seemed to be wonderful in the moment. I took it, but then very quickly it turned out into something that I knew I cannot live with. So extremely painful. Had to come back to the country because I left the country. It was in full crisis, 2009. No job, no money, broken heart. At 30
Oh,
was not a great moment. Let's say, not the way I pictured my 30s anniversary. And then 34 was the moment when I was in burnout, and I'll tell a little bit more about that. And at 40, during the pandemic, where we were already in the NeuroMindfulness journey and meditating, yoga teacher, all the beautiful things and tools that we know. And I had to live for 3 months in a house with my parents-in-law and with our 4 years old son and my husband's aunt, who was 95. So my
wow.
father-in-law was at the end of his life with mental and physical illness. So there was a lot of compassion, but there was a lot of anger in the whole ecosystem, right? Of helplessness, lots of mix of emotions, plus the pandemic. So it was the first lockdown that brought us in this context. So I think these were the three really, really tough, like those moments when you can see a hole, you can see there's a valley where you can fall deeply, and you're playing with that border of staying in this life and staying in this family and staying alive. So I played with that for 3 times in my life. I remember exactly how it feels. And maybe I can talk about one of them a little bit more, because burnout is a topic that I hear very often from our clients, from our friends these days, being them corporate or entrepreneurs, it doesn't matter. It seems to be like the common theme of tiredness, like deep tiredness and burnout. And for me, it was, I had no idea what is burnout at 34. It was 9 years ago. People were not so open about it. And I was in London. I had a big job in a big company. I had a global role, and the house and the money and the title and everything. So like the end of my ego, like more than that, it was already much more than I could ever imagine from this life. And I was so dead on the inside. I mean, I know people talk more openly about this, but I literally remember the feeling of working 16 hours per day,
Oh,
7
wow.
days out of 7, not because someone asked. I think that's interesting. Whenever I look back, I realize that nobody asked me to do that. I was so excited about what I was doing. I love the project. I love my job. So, I wouldn't blame the company or anyone else. It was just my own journey that brought me there. A bit like burning some steps, if you want. And, I remember that one day I just couldn't feel my body. I mean, I realized that I'm so tired that I need to do something, but then I had no energy to do anything. So I think that's the trick when you're in that state, because even if you realize you have to do something, sometimes we need help to get out of there. And I was alone in London. I had very few friends, mostly colleagues. And for me, there was a tiny habit that helped me. I saw a research about gratitude, which was actually framed in a much more simplistic way. What makes you happy? 100 happy days. And I turned that into a habit. They were saying that if you do that for 100 days, there are some benefits. You feel better, you have more clarity, and it takes a minute per day. And I was like, okay, I can do 1 minute. I remember it was something that opened the door to a whole new universe for me with just this tiny habit of starting to practice mindfulness every day.
I feel like this is so important what you're sharing right now, and thank you for letting us in your life in such a vulnerable moment in your life. I am sure that many of us listening here can resonate and maybe are in that point in this very moment. And I love how you didn't make it a point to have like a big practice. I'm going to turn my life around. I'm going to have a big practice. No, it's just going to be 1 minute per day of my happiness moment, my gratitude moment. And Vero, when did things start to shift? When did you start to see an improvement or an upgrade?
So I did this 100 days journey, and then I repeated the journey for the last 9 years. I think, I don't know, 18, 19 times. I've stopped counting at one point. And there is a group on Facebook, 100 Days Gratitude Challenge, to make it easy to remember. And people just share gratitude. And I noticed some patterns because I've done it so many times. And I have so many friends who have been in this they entered in a playful way, and then they saw the benefits. And there is always a moment around day 20, 22 that where things become easy. I remember until day 20, I had to stop and say, hey, now I think of what I'm grateful for, or what makes me happy, or whatever it was, the narrative. But after day 20, 22, it just becomes part of your day-to-day life. I spontaneously thought of gratitude. I had moments of, I love coffee. So, and it's many of us in Romania love coffee. So I was like, oh my God, I'm going to stop and have a flat white. And this would be a small moment of gratitude. And then there is another interesting point, and that's why I think it's really important to do it for 100 days. Around day 70, things start to shift in a more profound way. Ideas, people, resources, anything I need for work or for life starts to come my way with less effort. And I don't think it's magical. I mean, I used to think, oh my God, this is like amazing. But then when I read a little bit research, and when now with the awareness I have, I think it's just broadening the awareness. And because it's like we put a flashlight initially, and then we turn on the light. And when you broaden your awareness, you suddenly see more. And then you can pick up whatever you need from that more, from like a broader universe, let's say. So in this 100 days journey, that was for me interesting to observe. And then from here, I initially the baby steps with gratitude and walks in the park in London. And I've read 2-3 pages every day. And when I gained more strength, I discovered meditation. And then I would do, laying down on the bed because I was so tired. And that opened another door of meditation, guided meditation. And then I remember I discovered the Ho'oponopono, which is a forgiveness meditation. And for about 3 months, I would do it every day. And I would just not play it, but just by myself, sometimes walking, sometimes at home, sometimes when taking a bath. So really in a very natural way. And I remember every time when there was a phrase there, I forgive myself, I will instantly cry for so many weeks. And that was a journey I want to remember because I don't know why, with the conditioning we have, it's so difficult to have self-compassion. It's so difficult to forgive ourselves for the choices we've made, for hurting ourselves, for hurting other people. So I remember it as a kind of turnaround moment, a moment with myself. And I'm very grateful as well for that practice. And then when I moved to Paris, I met Arno and I discovered Hatha yoga and breathing. And a few years after, I became a yoga teacher as well. I discovered also Vipassana meditation, and which is a silent retreat. You go there, you don't talk to anyone for 10 days, and there are like 10 or 11 hours of meditation per day. So everything started from a 1 minute of awareness, from 1 minute of gratitude every day. And then there was a whole world opening up. And I don't practice all of this every day, but I have the tools. So I know that whenever I need something, it's available. I practice loving kindness. That's my go-to practice. So whenever I work with a group, whenever I meet someone, or even spontaneously during the day, I would just stop for a few minutes and do the loving kindness meditation.
I'm on the same page with the gratitude journey, and it does really teach a lot about yourself. So it does, for me, it taught that it's very hard for me to keep a daily practice. And I've made it a point through that journey to actually have daily posts. So it's been a really big internal shift for me to make it a point like every day, every single day, no matter what, before I go to sleep, I will do my small practice. And I could notice in myself when there was moments when I would tend to post just because I had a task to do, and the moments when I was like, okay, now I'm really doing my gratitude practice. And it's a great tool to observe yourself and how you relate to gratitude and how you relate to a practice where you have to be quite disciplined every day. So I'll put a link to the group also here. I know you welcome people all over the world. And also what I love about the group is the community, the sense of community that is there. I've found so much joy in reading other people's gratitude moments. So it makes you feel less alone, because it's one thing to be with yourself, by yourself, in gratitude, in a relationship with the divine, let's say, and it's completely different to feel like you're together and you're witnessed in your gratitude. So I really recommend the group wholeheartedly. And Vero, before we get into actually speaking about gratitude, which I'm really curious about, you mentioned Arno, and I know that you met Arno, your life partner and business partner, and then something amazing started to happen. Can you tell us more about your current work and what happened after you met him?
Yeah, so I met him very quickly after I moved to Paris. So it's a beautiful love story, and then very quickly, I think it was less than a month, or like anyway, a few weeks, that my global head of talent role kicked in, and I said, "Well, it's amazing. I feel we will do things together that go beyond our couple." Because he has this scientific background, he has a PhD in molecular biology. Then he moved to consulting with BCG. He was a VP in healthcare industry. So, and he was a yoga practitioner for, I don't know, 10 years when I met him. He would practice every morning, and he was religious about it. I always laugh because I said, I'm doing coffee yoga. He would do yoga, and I would enjoy my coffee next to him. So I knew we're going to do something because I had this people background, leadership development coaching, and it seemed to me obvious that these two can come together. And he's also very analytical, so different personality and different structure of the mind, let's say. And we said, wow, when we are 60, we're going to do that. And then the 40s became the new 60s because of the context that came to our life. And then we started NeuroMindfulness Institute 5 years ago. And we do now leadership development programs and online certification for coaches and leaders, which I'm very happy you're part of this wonderful community. Yeah.
Likewise. You are doing amazing work and you're impacting people all over the world. And I feel like there is so much resource that you both are putting together to help upgrade the level of consciousness in humanity right now. So you're teaching breathing, you're teaching mindfulness, neuromindfulness, also gratitude. And that makes me curious, how is gratitude part of everything that you're doing? How is is it like the connecting point of everything that you're doing? Is it central in what you're doing? Where does it stand?
It's a very good question, Emma, because I think gratitude was a bit like the glue of everything, but I haven't acknowledged that until we started to talk about this podcast. And if you ask all of my friends, probably they will say, if you say one word about Vero, it will be probably gratitude quite often
For
because
sure.
of this group and because of I'm very open now about sharing this. It takes 1 minute. It takes one. So I have a sales pitch. It takes 1 minute, not more. You don't need. You can do it when you brush your teeth. You can do. So I'm passionate about it. So I think if I think of all our work, gratitude is part of who I am. And because I am that way, it's brought into the workspace as well. But we don't have a program for gratitude or do anything around gratitude. I think it's more about role modeling and having it as a habit. So, because once you train your mind, it's done. That pathway is there, and then you can go on that highway whenever you want, but it takes a little bit more effort to build it. And if you have it, then you can access it in tough times. I started to practice gratitude in a really tough time, in burnout, and it was possible. But if you have it and you build it in good times, then it can be really a great support in more challenging times of life.
Yeah, I totally agree. That has been also my experience. And unfortunately, I feel like there's a lot of misunderstanding also around gratitude. Are there any myths that you see, or do you find any resistance in people when you tell them your pitch? Like it takes 1 minute. Do you feel like any internal resistance that is there?
I think one sweet memory that came to my mind while we were talking is when I was in Paris in the office, and we had people from all over the world. It was a headquarter for Europe, and there was a young lady. And for Christmas, we were raising money for kids um, for World Food Program. And I said, well, for whoever does this 20-something days of gratitude, like capturing a moment of gratitude, wherever you want, you don't have to prove it. You just have to do it and tell me you've done it. I would pay, I don't remember, 10, 20 euros or something on top of my contributions. I would do this extra. So I remember we were 80 in the office. I did the math. It would have been a big amount if everyone would have done it. But in my mind, I was like, okay, if that's the price to pay, I'm actually willing to do it. And there was a young girl, I think she was an intern at that time, 23, 24. She looked at my post in the kitchen, and she said, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to do it for 21. I think 21 because it's a classic days. It's so long. And
Well,
yeah, I think if that's the starting point, I just share, I don't pitch, because it means that person is in a place where maybe other things are more important, or maybe there are other ways. For a lot of clients, the entry door is neuroscience, and that's the part that Arno does really, really well, to come with studies, to come with research, saying what is actually happening with your brain and why this is a helpful habit. But if gratitude is not for you, maybe something different is for you. So I don't think it's the universal recipe. I just think it's a very easy to build habit compared to meditation, compared to breathing or yoga, or other practices that require much more effort.
And what happens in our minds? And because you've mentioned neuroscience, and now my neurons start to be all, oh my God. What happens when we practice gratitude?
Well, I will let you invite Arno for more details about the networks of the brain and so on. But one of the studies that we show quite often in our programs when we talk about gratitude is a research from about 15 years ago. which was one of the first relevant ones, where they asked participants to journal. I think it was for 3 weeks, not for a very long time, to journal gratitude moments. And then there was another group journaling hustle, so what went wrong in your life in those days. And then there was a control group journaling neutral events, just journal stuff, what's happening in your life without any priming the mind to that. And there was a clear research showing that the group that journaled gratitude compared to the other two groups had more positive effect, less negative effect, which means they would just feel better. They would feel more positive emotions overall. They had a more optimistic outlook of life, right? In general, more what the scientists call more pro-social behavior, which means like helping people. And I was wondering, how do they do this test? I mean, how do they know that I'm actually more compassionate? And what they put people, for example, in a waiting room for going to the doctor, and then they see someone with handicap or someone or a child or a pregnant woman comes in, and then they see who will offer the place. So this kind of tests they do on this kind of experiments. And they notice that people are just better human beings. They help more the others. And what was also very interesting, better sleep. Now there's much more awareness about sleep and the importance of, sleeping well and having a good quality and 7-8 hours of sleep every night, if possible.
That is amazing. That I feel like that is like the proof that anyone needs that gratitude is really something useful. And I do feel that in a moment when life is very hard, it's hard to pick yourself up and go and practice some gratitude, because what happens when we're experiencing something difficult is we want to solve the problem. We want to look at the problem and we want to get the problem out of the way, and then we'll be grateful. But from what you're saying, and also in my experience and my client's experience, it doesn't work like that. First comes gratitude. First comes the moment of gratitude, and then things start to shift for the better. But it is a bit counterintuitive, isn't it? When everything, or you feel like everything is going, I don't know, down, or everything is crumbling. It's not your instinct to go and practice gratitude, but is something that helps us very much. Oh, and there's one more thing. I feel like many people start to enforce gratitude on others as a way of trying to get others to get out of their low moment. Like, oh, come on, you should be grateful for this. You should be grateful for that. I'm curious, what is your view on that, and how can we practice gratitude without bullying ourselves, or how can we practice gratitude while still acknowledging that something is not right in our lives, that we need more resources, we need something to change?
I think, Emma, if that's a $1 million question, if we find the answer, we can write the book together. It's really, it's not easy, because if we are low, then we want people to listen to us. And sometimes I have great talks with Alice about that. Alice Anagnasakis is my best friend. She's in Australia now. So we talk every day about life. And we acknowledge that when both of us are down, then it's easy, because we help each other. When both of us are happy and life is good, and then it's easy. But then when one of us is, in a good place and the other one is not in a good place, then that's quite challenging for both sides. Because if I'm in a good place, I want to share that with the world. I want to share it, and I understand it helps people to build hope, to get the light, to get that positive energy and warmth and compassion. But in the same time, not too much, because I remember when I was not well during the pandemic, and Alice was well, we had this conversation. I was like, I'm happy for you, but the small part of me today, is not happy for you. I'm just looking at my pain. So I think it's just okay to acknowledge that we do the best we can, in regardless of where we are. We might be more into the, wow, life is good, or life is really, really challenging. And finding people who are there for us is the first thing I would do now when I'm in trouble, because I realize how much this support system, even if they're annoying with their positive things, it's overall for me that works. But I do know what you're talking about with this positive attitude that's almost looks like bullying. Of course, there are people with no food in this world. You have so much, right? And that's also something to watch out, because we have no idea what the person in front of us is going through. Although we have pretty pictures on Instagram and Facebook and everywhere, there is still a lot of pain in the world. And when I look at my pictures from the pandemic, from the first lockdown, I look so happy. I mean, I had pretty pictures in the garden, and I look at that. If someone would show me that picture, I would never think that that person is in burnout or very close to burnout. So yeah, maybe keeping the awareness all the time and checking where we are, how do we feel, what the other person in front of us feels, where are they in their journey, and acknowledging both the light and the shadow.
That's really important, Vero. And I feel like sometimes we need just to be held in the space, in a safe space, the way that we are, held energetically, emotionally, and not be told what to feel, how to feel. And I feel like when that happens, and actually, I think this is compassion. If I think about it, then gratitude starts to emerge naturally. Like, okay, I feel safe. I feel okay feeling whatever feeling I'm feeling right now. And then I can start to move towards gratitude. And there's also this acknowledgement that maybe there's both. I think Daniel Siegel has this concept of integration, that there can be both at the same time. There can be polarities existing at the same time. Yes, on one hand, I'm grateful for my coffee and my nice cup. It says courage here on the cup. I love it. I'm grateful for our meeting right now, but also there are things that maybe are challenging me today or in this very moment, and they don't need to exclude one another, right? We can integrate them. Is that your experience also?
Yes,
Can you relate?
I think totally relate to that. And I saw Daniel Siegel at an event 3 years ago in San Francisco, and it's amazing what he did. And his work is really now available for a lot of us. And he talks a lot about integration. And we include that into our retreats as well. We understand, how important it is to stop after any experience, life experience, or an experience you create for yourself, of course, listening to a podcast. There is integration in everything that happens. If you just pause and take the learnings from that and just allow the emotions or the whatever lesson comes for you to surface. So it's a really beautiful concept. I'm happy you brought it here. And coming back to gratitude, maybe one thing we can share is that initially you don't have to create gratitude. So I'm in a way I changed my sales pitch from capturing gratitude to just catch it when it comes. If it's very difficult or you find it artificial or too commercial, because everybody talks about gratitude, so I don't want to do it, because we have this thing, we either embrace or we don't. It has to be yes or no. It has to be black or white. Sometimes my invitation to especially when I work with business executives is to just keep a paper or the remarkable, whatever tool you have to capture, and along the day, along the week, if you feel spontaneously gratitude, capture that. And some of them have weeks when it's like, oh my God, there's so much gratitude. I didn't realize that. It just comes. And there are weeks when there's not much, just because of busyness. And there's another discussion, we can go, okay, what is the cause? So it's very, very powerful to, if we feel it's too difficult or we feel resistance to generate, maybe to just become aware when it's happening in a very natural way.
And why do you think that business makes us less prone to recognize maybe reasons for gratitude?
I don't think it's business. I think it's mainly
Busyness.
busyness,
Yeah.
busyness. I think it's just the way our brain is constructed, right? Our brain is designed by evolution to keep us safe, not to make us happy. This is it. That's the biology of our brain. And now we know the research with negativity bias, right? We need 3-to-1, like three negative emotions, to one negative emotion or negative thought or event. We need 3 positives to be on 0. So, and in couples or like with close family members, 5-to-1. So our brain captures much more events that are negative or a threat, because it's designed like this to be a control tower to keep us safe. It was more important for us to run away from the bear than to smell the flowers. So now we want more to get into thriving and to flourishing, and it requires work. It requires effort to train the brain to stay there. And coming back, connecting this research with what you said about positive, too much positive, the researchers brought this to the extreme, and there is a limit to, if you have 13 positives and 1 negative, then it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't work anymore. So it's very interesting to see that
Wow.
there is the reason why we have those negative emotions and events or whatever happens, so we can. But we need to train our brain if we want more positive. It's called positivity offset. So basically to stop and notice those positive moments or gratitude moments or happy moments, call it whatever. We have different language for whatever is important for us, but stay in that light, in the positive element.
And that it's possible to notice the positive and acknowledge it. And actually, in Romanian, so the Romanian word for gratitude is recunoștință, which comes from recunoaștere, which is like acknowledging. So the first thing, the first step towards gratitude is to see what's in front of you and to acknowledge what is right in front of you. And that can be positive, and maybe most times it is positive. And my first point was that maybe by acknowledging the positive, we can also integrate and look at what is negative that needs to be addressed. Because I feel that many people feel like, okay, if I start to look at just the bright side, I won't get into a space where I problem solve, or where I level up in the areas of my life where I want to level up. And I think there was Marisa Peer, a teacher from the UK, who works a lot with being enough, and she was saying that many people think that if you start to believe that you're enough, you stop doing anything. Okay, I'm enough now. I won't progress anymore. But it's the other way around. By you feeling that you're enough, you start to acknowledge, oh, I'm enough. I don't have to prove anything. I have potential. Wow, the world is mine. Now I start to do things, many more things, and from a whole different space than before, when I was not feeling enough. And I feel like it's the same with gratitude. I start to acknowledge what is here in front of me. I acknowledge what is positive, and this gives me hope and energy and resources to deal with what's negative. So it's still, the discernment is there. I still work on my life, I still upgrade, but still I'm grateful for what is here. And I feel like this is so hard. It's like a life skill.
Yeah, it's hard because we decide to make it hard, right? At the end of the day, if we think it's just 1 minute of my life, I'm the master procrastinator. So I understand procrastination. Every year I have these amazing goals about going to the gym. But there's no excuse for 1 minute if we really want. So that's why, in a way, it's one of those things that if we want to make it hard, it can be hard. Like the young girl in the kitchen, saying, wow, there's no way I can make it to 21 days. Or we can just take it in a playful way and say, well, let's have fun and do a challenge. Or, there are various ways in which you can make it easy and accessible.
Yeah, I love what you're saying around being curious. Let's see what happens. Let's see if I start on this. And I have to admit that before, 100 days of gratitude seemed a lot, seemed like that is like a third of the year. Oh my God, it felt a lot. But now, at the second try, it doesn't feel a lot at all. It just feels manageable, with some tools, with some reminders every day, right? I have a small reminder every evening at 11 p.m. to just post that gratitude for the day on the group. And I think I'm now on day 50, and it will be day 70 by the end of the year. So I've made it a point. I was like, on December 31st, I want it to be day 77 because I'm in love with the number 7. So I counted all the days. But right, this was like the I don't know. I'm a bit weird in that way, but this was
It's just funny. I find it cute and funny.
yeah, this was the second time. But because the first time it was a totally different thing. So I can completely relate with how monumental and how big something can seem at first. But if we stay curious, if we try, then it's like a whole new door opening up to us.
Yeah,
And
I'm on day 102. So I just finished another round, and it was really beautiful to see again the whole journey unfolding. And one thing that I do now before I do the 100th journey, I set an intention. And an intention can be I want to get more insights about a project that's in the business, or I want to get an insight or how to follow my path on the professional side, or maybe I want to bring more love and connection in the family. So this like big intention, and then I let it go, and then come back to it at the end. And it's really beautiful to see that even on a cognitive level, sometimes there are insights, there are projects that were created during the gratitude. I did the journey with Arno when we met, and when he was more open to experience all the tests from HR world and all the things that I proposed to him, and we did it together. So we would stop every day and acknowledge the moment of gratitude. We would take a picture or a quote, and he was building slides. So he's lives in slides, and everything is slides for him. So we have that documented. And what was amazing is that on day 99 or 100, and when we did the journey together, we did it only once together, I got pregnant. And I couldn't have kids. So I knew all my life that I cannot have kids, made peace with that thought. We knew about that. And yeah, well, it is a coincidence. It's not, whatever it is, I'm grateful for it. So, and every journey has this kind of magical element for me in it. So there was one journey I remember when at the end it was very clear that we need to do leading with wisdom. That's what we do in the business world. That's the umbrella. There was another one when we created the new brand NeuroMindfulness, because initially we had a different name, Fly Through Life. So a lot of things were born in these 100 journeys, even on the cognitive side, not only how I feel or how I experience, the blessings and the connection with other people.
I just got goosebumps when you share that. I feel like it is really, really, really magical. Wow. And now you have a 7-year-old, I believe?
6.5, yes.
6.5, yes. Amazing, amazing. How do you find gratitude in your world as a mother? Does it come in? How do you practice it? Because I believe there's a lot of triggers coming from your child, right? As it tends to happen.
Of course, yeah. They come as teachers. They're the best teachers because they press those buttons really, really hard. So I have to admit that it's not easy, in the sense of I don't think we talk enough about how challenging it is to be a parent. Now there's more openness about it. And even if you're mindful, even if you have enough time with your child, even our child was healthy, happy. So like we got an easy job, I would say, compared to other parents who have really, really big struggles. But the fact that you don't really sleep for many years, or at least in our case, the night is fragmented, so you don't get enough sleep, then emotion regulation, and your emotions are not always in control, and there's a whole chain of reactions from coming from this parenthood, not only motherhood. So gratitude is a good tool. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. In order to make it part of our life as a family, we have it since our son was 3. We have it as a dinner ritual. So we live in France, and dinner is sacred. So we always have dinner together, and it's our moment when we talk, we share about the day. So it's a thing, it's a moment. It's not only about the food. And that's when we bring this. Initially, it was what made you happy today. And now it's more and more into what are you grateful for today. And now it's, if we forget, and me and Arno forget, our son comes and we haven't done this. Or sometimes I bring him to bed and he's like, Mom, we forgot. So it's like a serious thing, for him. It's like, we forgot to do this. And then he comes with something exciting, for me today. And that, if we have more and more people around us, it can be, I remember when I was in the business, I had few colleagues who were very passionate, and they would always come and say, hey, what are you grateful for today? So it can be easy, it can be fun, it can be really like a kid, oh my God, we forgot to do it, let's do it. So keeping that curiosity, as you said, keeping that joy of discovering what is that one moment of gratitude, if there's only one today.
It's amazing how he picks up from you, and you're passing on this legacy to him. And I do, at least in my experience, kids are so open to these kind of practices. Like, they are so open. I remember when I used to teach meditation to kids in schools, and the older the child was, the greater the resistance was there. So in very small children, they're all up for it. They're all up for imagining a big balloon around them, which is very colorful and is taking them away to some space to see the clouds. And they're with the eyes closed, like, oh, I see this color and this color. But as they get older, like, the conscious mind starts to analyze, why are we doing this? What are we doing here, actually? And they start to become a bit more, oh, the colleagues are going to see me. Is this cool? Is everyone else doing it? Or yeah, but when they're small, they're like super open. And I feel like it's in our nature. It's in our nature to meditate, to feel grateful, to feel joyful. It's just that we can forget it sometimes, and maybe the practice is there to just remind us of what's deep within.
It is. And going back to the brain and what is happening in the brain between 8 and 12, we have this network in the brain that's developed called default mode network. So it's when our brain doesn't do anything, it goes actually on this default mode network. And usually, because our brain is designed to keep us safe, it travels in the past or in the future, but it kind of captures a lot of the negatives. Either worrying about the future, or going back and ruminating about the future, or going back and worrying about the past. So anyway, we have this like time travel, and that's why mindfulness, what it does, it brings us in the now. It trains this network, which is in balance with 2 other networks. I'm not going to get into details, but it trains this network to be available for us, because we do need the default mode network, but also we need to silence it when we have focused work to do, or when we want to activate gratitude and stay in the present moment. And that's what mindfulness does, that's what gratitude does, and breathing, we cannot breathe in the future or in the past. When we focus on the breath, we are in the now. So all these examples that you give with kids is because they don't have the default mode network so formed, which is in the spiritual world is associated with the ego, and it's the narrative we tell about who we are. And that's when it's formed between 8 and 12. So kids before 10 don't really need meditation. It's wonderful to build a habit or to play with meditation, because then it helps them afterwards. But otherwise, they are naturally in the present. Happy or unhappy, you will know if a kid, what they feel. It's rarely that they can self-regulate completely. They have extreme emotions.
True, true. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And it's good that they have you close by, or that they have adults close by who can help them regulate and teach them how to actually regulate their emotions. And this is so important. Vero, I'm wondering, you work a lot with clients in the corporate world, and not only, but mainly clients who are in business at the moment. And I'm curious, what are the challenges that you see right now in them, as if there's anything general that you can share, and what is the approach that you come with, or what is the let's say, not the advice, but the recommendations, the practice that you come to support?
Yeah, it's a question that we ask ourselves a lot because all our work is there to evolve and to address the needs of leaders in the business. Our work is, to bring neuroscience and mindfulness, but it's in the business setting. We know the business world. We're not neuroscientists. Well, Arno is a scientist, but and we are not the most experienced yoga teachers or meditation teachers, but we know business. We both of us had a successful career for 20 years plus in the business. So we want to bring these tools in the business world and make that life, better and easier. And there are lots of challenges. So when I talk to HR leaders, friends from business, CEOs, there's a lot on the agenda and there are a lot of worries. But if I have to narrow it down to one thing, I would say it's tiredness. There is a deep tiredness in almost every person we meet. I think probably 80% of leaders we met during workshops, one-to-one coaching sessions, I would say, yeah, it's quite high percentage, around 80%, that are extremely tired, deeply tired. If you ask them, what's your biggest wish? They will say, I want to go in a place and just without the phone, without anything, and sleep for a week. We heard that so many times. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges on how to pause, how to disconnect from social media, from family, from everything, just to have a good sleep, good rest, and recharge. And I also have examples of even CEOs, global HR, people who travel a lot, who have also families, who found a way to keep things in balance most of the time. But it's not easy. So I would say that the majority because there's so much pressure to be performant and to come, with newer products, with better propositions for clients. The business world evolves so fast. Now there is this always connected madness that makes us extremely tired. It tires the prefrontal cortex and the brain, so we don't have the time to recharge and just to be, not only to do things.
Wow, that that is very powerful. And yeah, the pressure that is there, the need for accomplishment is clearly there. And how can one start when you maybe some of us listening go like, oh, yeah, I'm right there. I feel this right now in my life. How does one start on a restful journey, let's say?
For me, it's always easy to start with something that comes natural. Like if reaching out to a dear friend is natural, then that produces oxytocin, for example. Then just do it, every day, make sure you have like your 10 minutes of when you talk to a friend or to your mom or to someone dear to your heart to recharge. If walking in nature is natural, then make sure you have enough breaks during the day. If gratitude, it's easy, or you want to do it, then it's really 1 minute per day. So really start where you are, and whatever comes easy, I would go with on that path, because when we are so tired, adding another thing, a course, a meditation practice, or something new can be extremely tiring as well, just to think of how you're going to do it when the mind goes in all the directions. It can be super frustrating. So I would encourage to maybe observe pause and say, okay, what is really, really easy for me? When I'm happy, when I'm at peace, what do I do? And be curious about that and discover what is my mindfulness. I don't believe that there is a recipe for all of us. Arno is passionate about breathing. I'm passionate about meditation and gratitude. I know you're passionate a lot about breathing as well, but breathing doesn't work for everybody. Meditation doesn't work for all of us. So I think now, with what I know today, there are many ways of knowing, and there are many ways of growing. And my invitation for our friends listening to us is maybe to just pause a little bit, like I did in London. I woke up one morning, I took a coffee, and I said, well, today I'm not going to work. It was Saturday, and it looked like a big deal. I'm not going to work for a day. I'm just going to take a piece of paper and write down 3 things that make me happy. I've never done that until 34. It's, that sounds crazy, but I've never done that. Just have a date with myself, right? Took a coffee and wrote down those 3 things. And that made me aware that I had nothing from those 3 things that made me happy. So it could be a reflection, it could be a walk, but then once you find that small thing that comes easy, do it for 100 days. And then in the journey, you might discover other elements. It can be just a portal into bringing more elements once you get more energy.
I love it. I love it. I love it. It's all about simplicity. And I just got out actually. I just got out of a business planning meeting with a group of amazing ladies. And she was, so the leader of that group was asking us, how does expansion and next level look for us for next year in our business? And my first instinct was, yeah, expansion, going big, adding lots of things because it's next level, right? You feel like you need to have more. But when I stopped for a second, I realized that next level for me is actually to put some things aside, to not try many things and just do what works, and maybe work less with more results. And it felt like stepping back from all the do, and just come down to what is important, relevant, and also find more time for myself. I feel like we often don't see how connected our state is to the state of our business. No matter what the business is, it can be you're creating shoes or you're working with people, right? In any kind of business, your state reflects into the business. So it's so important. Even for the business, it's like an investment. Those 10 minutes in the morning when instead of jumping on the phone, you take your time to ground and set an intention for the day. It's an investment in the business. And at night before going to sleep, instead of scrolling the phone, maybe you take some moment of gratitude and you write on the group, on 100 gratitude challenge group. It makes such a difference in your state and then in the business. So thank you so much for sharing that, Vero. And before we end, can you share with us 3 things that make you grateful right now or today? And then 3 things that maybe other expressed to you that they're grateful for. It may or may not include you.
Thank you for the question. I'm really grateful for family. After 3 very challenging years, with lots of joys as well, but with big challenges, I'm very grateful we're in a good place. We decided to move in the south of France from Paris to completely reshuffle our life, the business, the school, so everything. And we had a clear vision, and now we are there. We're here for 1.5 years, and it just feels like home. So very grateful for that. I'm grateful for the community that was formed around the NeuroMindfulness online course, which is just a course, to be honest. I mean, we get great feedback, but it's at the end of the day, it's knowledge. But the people that I met and the friends I've met and the whole community of 450 people from 45 countries now is just something that we never people ask me, how did you plan for that? How did you get there? I have no idea. We just did our best. And then people join, and then now we learn as well from people in the community, and some of them are wonderful human beings and extremely experienced professionals. So that's the second one. Yeah, I think these are the big things. And then I'm very grateful for learning. I'm now on a journey of becoming in a course to become a facilitator for retreats, a professional facilitator, and it's a wonderful journey. I am participant. I learn in a group where I think I'm one of the youngest. So lots of life experience and wonderful facilitation. Every Thursday for 2 hours and a half, I go to school. I go and learn a skill that looks so easy, but actually there are lots of nuances to that. So that's
love it.
And the other one was what people say they're grateful for. I think I have a very interesting way of functioning, even with social media or calling, or when I think of someone, I drop a note, or when I like what they post, or so I connect with people in a sort of an agile way that doesn't make any sense to Arno, for example, who looks and was like, "Well, how do you know this?" And I think people feel that sometimes it's more superficial, like a like or a smile or something. And sometimes it's like giving a call and saying, "Hey, I thought of you. Are you okay? I know this is happening," or "I know your kid is sick." So I think that connection, quite often people give me that, in return as gratitude of, I feel really that, you've connected with me and you've supported me through a tough times, or just being there to celebrate. So I am that way when I'm well. When I'm not well, I go back to, in my hibernating mode and just take care of myself and my family, and that's okay as well.
Well, being on the other side of your likes and comments and support, I can say that it does feel amazing. It feels very supportive, and it feels like it feels like someone's receiving whatever I decided to put out there. And yeah, I've always been really admiring on how you can manage to bring such amazing energy to people that you just read online or are present with online. And I do feel very, very grateful for that. And maybe to those listening, you can pause this video and also think a bit about 3 things that make you grateful right now, but also 3 things or more, or just 1, things that people share with you that they're grateful for. Because that is not something that we take in very easily. When someone comes to us and say, "Emma, I'm so grateful for this about you," or "You've helped me in this way," I can either choose to, okay, yeah, great, I'm happy, or really take it in and realize that, yeah, I am on the other side of someone's gratitude, and there's so much gratitude around that. So, Vero, you are really on the other side of my gratitude right now. You're a beautiful recipient of my really big gratitude at this moment, and not only. And I definitely am going to speak a lot more about your work and what you do together with Arno. And if you can share with us before we end, how can people find you? How can they connect with you? What is your open-hearted invitation, let's say?
So I'm on Facebook with my name, Veronica Brejan, or LinkedIn. I think on Facebook we're 2, my cousin as well, so the same name. One cousin, exactly the same name. So the blonde one is me. So you can connect on I'm a friendly person. You can connect on Facebook, on LinkedIn, or on Instagram. And if you want to read more about what we do, we also have a website. It's NeuroMindfulness and there you can see more about the course and the online certification and all the details. If you have questions, you can just write back to me, and very happy to have a conversation about that. And if that's a suitable program, we're happy to have you with us and grow together. If not, maybe we can exchange other information, or very happy to share if there's something particular that you need from us, and you don't have to go through the course. You can just write to me and I'll share.
And of course, the conversation about gratitude doesn't end here. There's a lot more to speak, but my invitation right now is to actually find a small moment every day where you can bring this feeling, not just idea or concept of gratitude, but the actual feeling in your heart. And guys, if you do this, drop us a comment and let us know how it's going. Let us know what makes you feel grateful, what lights you up, what brings you joy, and let that joy be the resource for everything else in your life. And Vero, thank you so much for being here today. Wishing you and everybody Merry Christmas, and if you celebrate, and an amazing start of the year. And we'll be in touch. Stay in love and be love, be gratitude.
Thank you, Emma. Wonderful Christmas, end of the year, beginning of the year to everyone. And it's a beautiful time of the year. So make sure you spend it wisely.